What are you guys doing here? I'm trying to work. Who let you guys in even? I mean, how'd you get here? Well, I guess since you're already here, I ought to make a video. So, welcome to Smith Family Gaming. I'm Zane, your host, and today we're going to make a video kind of about somebody else's video. Actually, two other people's videos. I watched a video, I think it was on Black Friday, of one of the guys I really look up to. Actually, two guys that I really look up to. One was Ninjon, and the other one is Vince from Hobby Cheating. And those guys are amazing. I am nowhere close to being as good as they are. But they challenged each other to a dry brushing contest, I guess, to see who could paint a whole model with just dry brushing, which, I never thought of something like that, but, apparently they did. So I was pretty interested, and Vince did some pretty cool stuff with just some dry pigments, and I was just amazed by it, because I had never thought, I use my dry pigments to do bases and stuff like that, or maybe add a little bit of dust on their feet, but he did it all to add a little bit of glow to like a lantern or something. I don't know what it was. Anyway, it looked really cool, and I got to thinking, I was like, well, could you paint or dust or whatever a miniature with nothing but pigments? Now, I'm not saying to go ahead and mix pigments into paint, because we all know you can do that by adding some medium and stuff. I'm saying just use pigments and maybe a little bit of water. So why don't you join me at the desk, and we'll see what I can do. Tested a little bit before I started recording to see what would happen, and then when I started to see what was possible with it, I decided to go ahead and record. Unfortunately, that first recording disappeared somehow. I have all sorts of bad trouble with that, so part of it's already done, but we're going to try a little bit, and I'll show you exactly how I did this here. Now, this is what I came up with after dry brushing here, or not dry brushing, sorry, using dry pigments. Okay, so these are, just the spider butt, basically the top of it. I did all that with dry pigments. I did have to use a little bit of water. The reason behind I just grabbed an old dry brush, and I started dry brushing it on. And I'll show you on this leg here. So, yeah, I mean, eventually you're probably going to get... It makes a heck of a mess too, by the way. Yeah, eventually you're probably going to get that. But when I went ahead and I threw a little bit of water on it to kind of speed up the process. I got a little bit down here, so speed it up, put a little bit on there, get a little bit wet, and then it actually, dyed it much quicker than trying to do that. Could I have done it with just the powder? Probably would have taken forever, but I think that would have been possible. So that's how I did the whole butt of this guy to begin with. I did the dark shading on it with just some of this peat. I kind of put it on there dry a little bit, came back with a little bit of water, soaked it in, and then came over the whole thing. Nice and easy. Came back. Did all that. Now I could go over the whole thing, but for this purpose, we're just seeing whether or not this is even possible. So I went ahead and kept doing that, and I got that all covered in the dark color, which, for a spider, that's a pretty good base color, I would say. A dark shade shadow color. A lot of times when I paint, I'll start with my shadow color and then work my way up. A lot of people will go ahead and put their mid-tone in first, and then shadows and highlights after that. I've been trying to do that, and I'm not very good. So after that, I let it dry a little bit, and then I went to two other colors. I have a Opthong 502. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not 100% sure. It's a Pigments. Their Pigments. This one is Ochre Earth. I started with that, and then I went to a second highlight with Beach Sand, also by Opthong 502. So what I started out with was another dry brush. This one was kind of a I don't know, rounded one, and it worked fine for smushing it on and everything else. And then I went to a chisel dry brush. This one is from Gadzooks Games. The other one was, I believe, from Army Painter. I don't know, it's Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm pretty sure that is the same. They have that brand. So then from there, I went with just dry pigments. I didn't add any more water after that because I just didn't think that it would be too much after that point. I kind of liked the dusty figure of it. So I went ahead and I just smeared it on a little bit, you know, in the highlighted areas, or highlighted areas, the raised areas, sorry. And then when I got too much on, because see, it just gets everywhere. It does. It does get everywhere. Then you just give it a nice blow, get some of that off, clean off your brush. If you got a little too much, come back, knock some of that stuff off, and bring a little bit more in where you want it. And then I realized this is kind of getting everywhere. I need something a little bit sharper and pointier. But, you know, I'm like, well, I don't really want to use one of my good brushes for this nonsense, so I better use something else. And I didn't really have a used brush that had a sharp enough tip, but it was thick enough to actually grab this. So what I went to was one of these silicone molding tools, and then I could get a little bit on there and I could smear it on just about exactly where I wanted it. Now this worked great for, you know, that area there, you know, but in, you know, some tighter areas it'd be a little bit more difficult. Definitely smear it on where you want it. Get it as close to the area. This might not be the best one for it, but it worked out. Smooth it out with that, and then if you go ahead and you've got a little bit too much where you don't want it, I just came back with a little bit of this peat, the original dark color, and then just smoothed it out with each other. So see, I got it a little too dark or a little too light right there in that recess, and that's where I would want it a little bit darker. And also in these two scars or whatever. At that point I did have to find a older brush. It wasn't quite as good. I think this is a scale 75 brush, and I mean, it's not toast, but it's pretty close. And then I just feathered that in to the I don't know, scar of this spider's Oh yeah? Not going to work for me, are you? Not quite sharp enough. So I'll go back to the silicone. I got this black one, and I'm just going to push it right in there. I grab a little bit. It doesn't take a whole bunch when you're doing it this way because it's just right in there. And that's a nice sharp pointed one. So it goes basically right in there, and you just rub it in there, and it's going to push that right in there. So that looks all right. And then from there, I went to my second highlight of this beach sand, and I went with the, you know, to me these modeling work a little bit better, and a little bit for, you know, these pigments works a little bit better. And then I went on the most raised area and threw a little bit of that on. I didn't throw it on real heavy like I did the other color, but just a little bit on the tip here. Like I said, you can just as long as you don't smear it in, you can normally just blow the stuff right off. You know, and that's part of the thing. So is this a good idea? Probably not. I mean, is this going to be useful? Is this going to change miniature painting forever? Definitely not. I mean, anybody foolish enough that wants to waste a whole bunch of your pigments on trying to do this, you go right ahead. I'm not going to waste my pigments for that. But what it did do was it showed me what I can do with dried pigments. And that now I've got an understanding that I can do a lot more than what I initially thought was possible with just dry pigments. Like I said, am I going to be able to paint a whole model with this? I might be able to. But to me, the time that's spent on it is already, too much, and I don't think that it would look as good as when I painted it. But like I said, this is more of just for having fun. I mean, isn't that what we're doing this hobby for, is to have fun? I enjoy learning and trying new things out. And this thing was new to me, trying dry pigments out on an actual model all over it, just to see what I could get and what kind of effects I could get. And to me, that looks pretty sharp. Now, is it going to rub off? It probably will. But will it rub off if I went ahead and varnished it? Probably not. It'll probably just stick on there and be perfectly fine. Now, to me, this spider doesn't look hairy, so I would go ahead and most spiders that aren't hairy are very either satin or glossy looking. Like a black widow, for instance, is very glossy looking, and brown lacrosse, it's not as glossy, it's more of a satin. So I would probably go with a glossy or satin on this. Truthfully, I might go ahead and finish this up here with the dry pigments, and because I kind of like the way it looks. It does look like a spider that I would see out in my neck of the woods of Kansas. So that's kind of interesting. Now, if you like what we do here at Smith Family Gaming, make sure that you like and subscribe and share with all your friends. That way we can keep making cool videos and you can keep watching them. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.